Until now, we have spoken about jobs, immigration, home loans, and investment. But now, let's zoom out because something much bigger is happening. The war in West Asia, it is no longer just creating military headlines. It is very quietly changing the global financial system. And it does not matter whether you live in New York, London, Toronto, Dubai, Delhi, this change could eventually affect your wallet too. Most people think that wars are fought only with missiles and tanks, right? But that's only one side of the story. The other battle happens inside banks, financial market, and central bank, and that's exactly what is happening today. For decades, countries in the Gulf, they have played a major role in the global flow of US dollar. Oil exports brought huge amount of money into the region, and those dollars eventually found their way into the banks, investment, and financial market around the globe. But now, with tension rising around the Strait of Hormuz and oil prices remaining under pressure, this financial system is beginning to face new challenges. Now, you may wonder, how does this affect me? So here's the answer for you. Let's say that you are an Indian living in the US, right? Every month you send money back home. You help your parents, you pay your children's education, or maybe you are investing in property in India. Normally, transferring money is simple for you, right? Until now, we have spoken about jobs, immigration, home loans, and investment. But now, let's zoom out because something much bigger is happening. The war in West Asia, it is no longer just creating military headlines. It is very quietly changing the global financial system. And it does not matter whether you live in New York, London, Toronto, Dubai, Delhi, this change could eventually affect your wallet too. Most people think that wars are fought only with missiles and tanks, right? But that's only one side of the story. The other battle happens inside banks, financial market, and central bank, and that's exactly what is happening today. For decades, countries in the Gulf, they have played a major role in the global flow of US dollar. Oil exports brought huge amount of money into the region, and those dollars eventually found their way into the banks, investment, and financial market around the globe. But now, with tension rising around the Strait of Hormuz and oil prices remaining under pressure, this financial system is beginning to face new challenges. Now, you may wonder, how does this affect me? So here's the answer for you. Let's say that you are an Indian living in the US, right? Every month you send money back home. You help your parents, you pay your children's education, or maybe you are investing in property in India. Normally, transferring money is simple for you, right? But during period of financial uncertainty, exchange rates, that becomes volatile. Banks and money transfer companies may widen their currency conversion margin and adjust their fee to manage the market risk. So that means you could end up receiving less value than expected when sending money across the border. But well, that's only the beginning here. Higher oil prices don't just affect petrol pumps. They also increase the transportation cost, manufacturing cost, food prices, business expenses. Eventually, inflation rises. And when inflation stays high, central banks becomes cautious. Instead of reducing interest rate, they often keep borrowing costs higher for a very long time. And that's exactly what's happening today. The expectation that interest rate would fall very quickly has weakened as policymakers continue to watch inflation and energy prices very closely. Now imagine you're running a motel in Texas or a grocery store in New Jersey or maybe a commercial property in Chicago. You already have a business loan. You expected loan repayment to become cheaper this year. Instead, your monthly cost that remains high. And if business slows down, financial pressure becomes even greater. Here's another important fact that is hidden, by the way. When companies face rising costs, they begin protecting their profit. Expansion plans are delayed. In fact, hiring slows down, budget becomes tighter, and once again, employees, they begin worrying about job security. And that's why economists often say that wars don't remain on the battlefield. They slowly enter boardrooms, banks, markets, business, and eventually our homes. Well, the message is simple here. Global finance is connected. A conflict thousands of kilometers away can influence your salary, your investment, your loan, and even the amount of money you send home every single month. But yes, while many Indians abroad are thinking about protecting their money, thousands of others are facing a much more immediate problem. They are simply trying to get home because flight disruption across West Asia are now creating immigration problems that very few people expected. Imagine this, you're returning to America after visiting India. Your flight connects through Dubai. Everything is going according to the plan. Then suddenly your flight is cancelled. You think that it's okay, I'll travel tomorrow maybe. But what if that one cancelled flight it changes your immigration status? Sounds dramatic? Unfortunately, for some people, it's a rare possibility. As conflict continues across the parts of West Asia, airlines have changed routes, cancelled the flights, and closed airspace in several areas. Thousands of passengers are facing delays, missed connection, and unexpected transit problems. Well, for the tourists, this may simply mean a longer holiday, right? But what happens to an international student? It could mean missing classes. But for people traveling on work visas, the consequences can be much more serious. Think about an Indian engineer working in America, or maybe a manager returning to Canada, or maybe a researcher traveling to Europe. Many immigration systems they operate on strict deadlines. Visa validity or maybe work permit date, entry requirement, biometric appointment, official interview. Everything follows a timeline. And sometimes missing just one deadline can create major legal complications for you. Well, the document explains that workers traveling on temporary visas may need to act very quickly if travel disruption affect important immigration timeline. It also notes that overstaying visas or missing financial appointment, it could create additional legal complication depending on individual circumstances and immigration rule. Now imagine being stranded in another country. Your employer is waiting, your visa is close to expiring. Your immigration lawyer cannot reach you. Every hour becomes stressful. Every notification on your phone, it creates anxiety, and that's exactly why immigration experts always advise travelers to inform their employers immediately. If travel plans are disrupted, in fact, keep official document, airline confirmation, and legal record that can become extremely important if unexpected delays affect the immigration processes. Well, the lesson here goes far beyond one flight. In today's world, travel is no longer only about booking tickets. It's about understanding the immigration law, preparing for unexpected disruption, and always having a backup plan. Well, because sometimes the biggest risk it is not missing your flight, it is missing the deadline that comes after it. So far today we have spoken about jobs, home loans, immigration, investment, banking, and travel. But our final two stories bring everything together because they show how India itself is creating new financial opportunities for NRIs, while Canada is making life more difficult for thousands of temporary workers. And that is what is coming up next. Well, for years, millions of Indians living abroad have followed the same financial habit. They work overseas, they earn in dollars, save a part of their income, and send the rest of that back to India. Some invest in fixed deposits, some buy property, some invest in stocks. But now, India is trying to attract those overseas dollars in a completely different way. Well, the Reserve Bank of India has introduced a temporary framework to encourage more foreign currency deposit into the country. Now, under this particular arrangement, several Indian banks have increased the return available on foreign currency non-resident or FCNR deposit, giving NRIs an opportunity to keep their savings in US dollars while earning interest. Now, let's first understand why this has attracted so much attention here. Normally, when you invest money in India, your dollar, it is converted into Indian rupee. That means your investment is affected if the Indian rupee becomes weaker. But with FCNR deposit, your money remains in US dollar. You deposit dollar, you earn interest in dollar, and when the investment mature, you kind of receive dollars again. But for many NRIs, that sounds like an attractive option, right? Because it reduces direct currency risk while keeping their savings linked to the US dollar. Well, here's another reason people are talking about these deposits. Well, some banks are allowing eligible consumers to borrow against their deposit and reinvest those funds. This particular strategy, it is designed to increase potential return, but it also increases financial risk. Well, if interest rates rise or the gap between borrowing costs and deposit returns it becomes smaller than expected profit, it may also fall. That's right. That's why this opportunity is not suitable for everyone. Higher return, it often comes with higher responsibility. If you don't understand how leverage really works, you could end up taking unnecessary risks. And if you live in countries like the US or Canada, remember something very important. Even if an investment receives favorable tax treatment in India, you may still have reporting and tax obligation in your country of residence. The biggest lesson here is simple. Never invest just because somebody says the returns are high. Understand the product, understand the risk, read every condition very carefully because smart investing isn't always about earning the highest return. It's about protecting your wealth over the long period. Well, India is definitely creating new opportunity for the global Indian community, but every opportunity should be matched with careful planning and informed decision. Well, that's all for today's edition of Skyline, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dhriti Athri. Thank you for watching, and if you find this report really useful, come back tomorrow for more episodes.